Okay, so on here we've got hand files. Files are used to shape and to remove material. So on the right hand side here you can see 6 different hand files. All are very similar. However, the top 3 are actually called rasps. This is for deeper cuts, to remove more material because they are very coarse. So the top 3, the top one is a round rasp. Then you've got the flat rasp. Then you've got the half round rasp where it's flat on one side and rounded on the other. After that, you've got the round file, flat file, and half round file there as well. So if the grading of your file is a 0, that means it's extremely coarse, doesn't get much coarser than that. And the higher the number, so let's say you've got a flat file that's at a Swiss pattern grading of 6, that is going to be the smoothest, which is what we used to chamfer our mild steel. Okay, after that, now I'm not going to go through all of this with you, but you can see the different shapes that you can get from the file. Obviously, if you use the round file, you can use it for holes. If you've got the half round file, you could do it for half rounded stuff, so something that it's like the radius of it. And anything flat, like when we were doing chamfers, you'd use the flat file. At the bottom here as well, we've got needle files. You might recognize them from the project that we made when we were using them on acrylic. So these can be used on metal and plastic. Okay, so it's very important to know that these can be used on metal and plastic. But for smaller holes, you've got the same thing. You've got the flat, circular, square, half round, oval as well is one that you can get as a needle file, but used for smaller sections or to get into smaller gaps. Hacksaws. Now, hacksaws and junior hacksaws basically the same. However, hacksaws are bigger. They are used to cut through metal, and this is because they have got a lot of fine teeth on them. Now, that is via something called TPI, so teeth per inch. Lower the number, the less teeth you have in that inch. So if you want to give it a rough cut, just to cut something like that's quite soft, or thick material that's quite soft, you'd use something like 14 TPI. The one that we use in school is 24. This is just your average, middle of the road stuff used for general use. So if you want to cut aluminium, mild steel, you'd have the 24 TPI. If you've got something that's harder than that, so let's, for example, we're cutting through titanium and we need to do it by hand, you'd use something with much higher TPI. So something like 32 TPI. They are there for thinner materials to stop vibration whilst cutting, and also harder materials as well. Okay, tap and die. I'm not going to talk much about this because we have used this quite a few times. Please remember that the tap is used for internal threads, so you tap in. Die is for the external threads. Okay, so if you're doing an external thread for a bolt, you'd use the die. If you want to do an internal thread, you'd use the tap. So how it's used here, we've known about this, about tap sizes. So you've got M1, M2, M3. All that means it's a metric system. So M1, 1 millimeter, M2, 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter, and so on. But what you need to understand, if you are doing an internal thread, that you need the drill size to be smaller. So for example, if you wanted a M4 tap size, then you are going to have to use a 3.3 or even a 3 millimeter drill size. Because if you drilled something at 4 millimeters and put a tap that is M4 in there, well, there's nothing to remove. So you need to make sure that the drill size is actually smaller than what you are tapping. So on here, we've got pliers. So pliers are tools that can be used for a multitude of tasks, that including holding workpieces with additional force as well as clamping. There are many different types of pliers available that perform specific tasks. Here are a few examples that are commonly used in our workshop. So the combination pliers. Combination pliers have both fine and coarse teeth jaws, which can be used to grip workpieces such as pipes and other round objects, as well as a cutter that can be used for wires. So you'll see one of these at the top there. Now, personally, I call these a bullnose plier. However, in the exam, please call it combination plier. You can see on there that you can use, there is a section, a sharp section for you to be able to cut through wire. Now the needle nose pliers, primarily used for electronics. As you can see, they've got a long nose. They are also known as long nose pliers, or I prefer to call them snipe nose pliers. All three terminologies is absolutely fine to use. So these are used for electronics, to hold small electronic parts whilst you are soldering, or to bend wires through a PCB. So that's a printed circuit board. On there as well, you do have the option to cut wires. Underneath here, we've got locking pliers, also known as mole grips. They are used for clamping or holding workpieces together so that they can lock onto workpieces with a great deal of pressure. They are adjustable and also come in different forms. They are commonly used to hold workpieces together during the welding process. So if you want to weld two pieces of sheet metal together, you would hold them together using locking pliers, and you can change that, the size of it. You could go all the way down to 1 millimeter, and you can even extend it to something like 50 millimeters, depending on the one that you have. Then finally, we've got the water pump pliers, also known as plumber grips, used to tighten any stuff that you've got under the sink. So any nuts that, like PVC nuts that need tightening, you'd most likely use these. They are adjustable, so they've got different grips, different diameters for different pipings. And on there as well, they've got offset handles, which makes it much, much easier to go into confined places, like what I have just said, which is under the sink or under the bath. Finally, we've got screwdrivers. These are either handheld or used with a drill. These are the 5 main screwdrivers that you'd use. So flathead, which has just a straight slit through there. You've got the Phillips, however, it should be called a crosshead instead of a Phillips, because Phillips is a brand. But if you say Phillips, you still get the mark. Crosshead, you've got the Torx, the Hex, and the Posi drive. Now, the Posi drive and the Phillips are very similar. You could use a crosshead screwdriver to undo a Phillips and a Posi drive. However, the Torx and the Hex are much more difficult. You need specialized screwdrivers to get these, and that is mainly because of security issues. So the flathead can be released easily with a 1p coin, whereas Torx and Hex, you haven't got much of those things in your pocket that have those shapes. So that's for security reason. They all do exactly the same job. They just have a different head, and screwdrivers are used to release and to tighten them.